Doug Uloff joins us. He's a lawyer with more than 27 years of experience in Dallas, Texas. He joins us now to talk a little bit about the plant in West Texas that blew up a couple of weeks ago. Doug, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
You know, when we saw the video of the explosion that took place, it was hard to imagine that anybody nearby could have survived it. And now we find out after the fact, of course, that the company did not carry much in the way of liability insurance. And I'm curious what was their thinking on that?
It's been disclosed in litigation that was filed. In fact, the first suit that was filed in the case, which was 2 days after the accident, that the maximum amount of insurance that the company carried was $1 million. There have been estimates of damage up to $100 million to surrounding areas, businesses, people, with claims of all types. And the simple fact is there's no rule requiring any amount of insurance to be carried. It's up to the owners of the business to ascertain what they think is necessary primarily to protect themselves, not other people.
It seems like that's going to leave the owners of the company quite vulnerable.
It will leave the corporate ownership of the company vulnerable to lawsuits and damages that will likely, I would expect, put them into bankruptcy or out of business. Whether the individual owner, the persons who own the corporation are at risk will depend on factors that are as yet unknown as to whether they disregarded the corporate form in some fashion or may have engaged in some conduct that might be regarded as criminal that would subject them to personal liability. But at the present, we don't know whether liability will reach to their individual property.
Has anyone commented from the company as to why they only took $1 million in liability and what their expectations are for helping the people that were hurt?
No, the company has been completely silent since the accident. They've issued sort of written statements through a spokesman, but none of which have addressed these type of issues and simply merely stated that they're cooperating with investigation by providing all the information that is required of them by the various agencies that are investigating the accident.
If you were going to be one of the people that were hurt by this accident that took place, how would you proceed knowing that they have so little in the way of liability insurance?
It is a practical detriment to following through on litigation. At this point in time, whether there is going to be any additional assets available will depend on what the ultimate cause is determined to be. For example, the owner of the facility, West Fertilizer Company, is carrying a $1 million policy, and the property on which the structures were located is appraised in tax rolls as being possibly worth another $2 million, subject to the missing parts now. But I would imagine that attorneys who are representing the persons who are injured are looking to find out whether there is some other factor involved. For example, is the accident a cause of perhaps a railway car that was hooked up inappropriately to a dispensing system at the fertilizer plant? And is there some problem with the coupling mechanism? And is the manufacturer of that mechanism possibly liable for a defect in that? So people are going to now begin to wait for the investigation to determine what caused the event and see whether that generates any possible basis for looking to someone else for liability.
Doug, is it unusual for a company of this size to carry so little in the way of liability?
I would not say that it is unusual because insurance is primarily carried for the benefit of the business based on their own expectation as to what their maximum exposure might be. And all evidence that's been presented so far as a result of the investigation indicates that the owners of this facility never really realized how potentially dangerous the materials they were handling might have been.
Have there been any numbers put out as far as what total damage could be or what total liability ultimately could be?
There have been several assessments made by both independent adjustment agencies and some of the state agencies in Texas that suggest that the damages are as high as $100 million.
Is there a lot of help coming in from around the country?
There is. In fact, when you say there's $100 million in damage, much of that is going to be covered by people's own insurance and businesses' own insurance. So there will be some additional insurance coverage beyond the $1 million in the policy and other potential damages because the individuals who are harmed or the business who are harmed may have carried their own insurance that will assist with this. But by all reports, there's been a tremendous outpouring of support, certainly from within the state and I believe outside of the state as well, to try to provide for the daily necessities of people who have no home in many cases.
I would imagine those insurance companies will go after the insurance company or the actual company, the fertilizer plant itself, too, once they have to pay out.
They will, and in fact, the very first lawsuit that was filed 2 days after was filed by 4 insurance companies representing some of the claimants against the defendant, West Fertilizer Company.
Yeah. Doug Uloff, lawyer, 27 years of experience in Dallas. Doug, thank you so much for joining us. I sure appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.